Cards. A final Senate vote is likely later this week on legislation to crack down on certain credit card practices, with the most significant move aimed at protecting consumers against unjustified interest rate increases. Travis Plunkett is with me, legislative director at the Consumer Federation of America. He supports the reform efforts. Fred Smith, president of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, does not. Good to have you on the program, gentlemen. Welcome.
Good to be with you.
Glad to be here.
I guess let me begin with you, Fred. Why don't you support it?
Well, consumer protection legislation that hurts consumers is not a very good idea. Industry basically has to be allowed to advance but then retreat. And with credit and cost of credit going up and down daily, as your stock market statistics indicate, to freeze that process, to have price controls on credit rating, is to mean that the industry will not go advance. People will be cut out of credit. We'll lose the great privilege of America's markets, which have always been to democratize the privileges that the rich people always had, the people in Europe always had.
So you're saying that there's nothing wrong with the credit card practices today. Is that what you're saying? The
only thing that could be wrong with the credit card practices is that the industry is inadequately competitive, and this is going to make it less competitive.
Travis, you agree with that?
Well, I see the proposal as helping consumers a lot. It's going to make the credit card marketplace more transparent. People will know better what their credit card companies can charge them or not. It doesn't cap interest rates at all. It merely forbids a range of abusive and deceptive practices that credit card companies have been using to, for example, unjustifiably increase people's interest rates. That's not about controlling access to credit. That's about assuring a fair marketplace.
A fair marketplace is brought about by when a company makes an offer. If it's too high, then you go to a rival credit card company. Competition disciplines errant behavior in this market like it does in any other market. When government goes in and reduces the flexibility, increases the rigidity of a market, you run the risk of driving the market into retreat. Retreated markets mean less consumers are served. Do America really want to go to the kind of rigid credit markets that Europe has long had?
So you think it serves consumers well to have their rates increased and they didn't even know that they had the rates increased, or you miss a payment on your utility bill and in the fine print it says on your credit card statement, oh, we can take your rate from 6% to 25% if you miss any other payment on any other card like your utility bill. You think that's fair practices?
I think the point is credit is a very complicated process, and credit card companies, which are an American invention, came about because they wanted to offer credit outside of the asset-based credit that had been the things that rich people had. They wanted to go to a system where credit would be a function of the ability to pay. The ability to pay indicates how well you and people like you in the American economy have been able to pay, what interest rates are, what the generalized default rate is. We've got lots and lots of variables out there, and classes of consumers go up and down in creditworthiness. Remember, credit card companies have two ways of losing money. They can give someone a credit card who can't pay it back at the terms they thought, or they can deny someone a credit card. Credit card companies have no desire to shrink their business. This makes it easier, makes it impossible for them to make that distinction as well. They will cut out consumers. We'll have a less democratic market, a less consumer-friendly market.
Maria, that's exactly what the credit card companies have done. They have shrunk their market. Their costs, their lending costs are up. Their losses are up. They can't securitize loans. And it's because this market has been unregulated. It's because credit card companies have been allowed to be untransparent and increase interest rates at any time for any reason. What we've learned from the economic crisis is that if you put your customers in financial danger, ultimately you're going to endanger the economy and you're going to endanger the lending institutions. And that's exactly what's happened in the credit card marketplace.
Wait a minute.
We have close to $1 billion in credit card debt. Consumers are loaded up with debt. These practices increase the debt that consumers have. They destabilize these families, and ultimately that hurts the kind of competition that Fred's talking about.
We were told that credit was overused in America. Let's give them that.
Yeah,
now
credit
card companies are pulling back, and you're critiquing that too. The advances and retreats in the market are very complicated, and they depend on lots of things. The idea that government is going to decide we use too much credit, keep credit flowing as freely as before, that doesn't make any sense. What the credit card companies are doing are basically trying to make a very difficult balance between extending credit to people who who can pay it and credit to people
Yeah,
who
they've
can't
done
pay
a
it.
very
That's
poor
not an
job
easy
of
thing.
determining who can pay and who can't pay. In fact, what Congress has said is that a lot of these practices have nothing to do with the actual financial risk of the credit card customer. They have to do with the ability, because of an uncompetitive marketplace, which you've acknowledged, of these credit card companies to increase interest rates and fees at will. It is not a competitive marketplace. This legislation is going to make it fairer and more transparent and ultimately more competitive.
You
So
really
wait,
believe
business- business has-
believe that Congress knows more than the people whose economic well-being depends on getting it right? Congress knows what the right price is for interest rates,
No,
the right
but the
price
banks
of
want to
changing
make
it.
more money on the people who are borrowing. It's not brain surgery. I mean,
No, that-
over the
of course-
last 6 or 8 months, the credit card companies have raised rates dramatically. Let's
Of course
face
they
it.
have.
Yeah,
Of
most
course
of
they
the
have,
major
because the
companies
cost of
have raised
credit-
rates.
the
And that's
cost of credit-
okay. That's
the co-
okay.
The price ought to be what the market dictates it to be. The market is the best regulator. Congress knows nothing about the ability to make wise credit decisions, as illustrated by the $1.8 trillion deficit we're now running, to turn these monetary alcoholics over in charge of the credit card industry runs the risk of making even worse the
So
economic
Fred- so
crisis
Fred-
we're in
so
today.
Fred is blaming-
We got to wrap this up. But wait, who are the alcoholics? The
Congress of the United States and the administration and the Bush administration. Let's be bipartisan in this.
It's hard to defend the
That was,
credit card
that was-
companies, but I guess Fred's going to do it.
Gentlemen, thank you. We'll see you a little later. Cheers.